The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen. We begin with our ongoing coverage of the Sierra Snowmelt. With temperatures rising and increased attention on possible flooding, local leaders say they're trying to get the situation under control now. Right now, outflows from Lake Isabella are sitting at just around 7,000 cubic feet per second. The Army Corps of Engineers made that mandatory release order, and they're expected to increase it to 7,500 cubic feet per second later this week or early next week. However, our Kern River watermaster says flows do not stay the same throughout the Kern River across Bakersfield. That's because large volumes of water are diverted from the river by a network of canals upstream, lessening the flows as it moves through the city.
1,000 goes to the Beardsley, 1,000 goes to the Carrier Canal, and then 1,000 goes to the Callaway Canal. So through town, there's about 4,000 cubic feet per second.
County identified low-lying areas most at risk for flooding, focusing largely on Highway 178, Yokitz Park, and areas along the river between Rancheria Road and Manor Street, including Hart Park. Meantime, Kern reactivated its Emergency Operations Center, and officials are working on new maps for residents to assess the risk to their property. Those maps are intended to go beyond the ones provided by FEMA. Firefighters made quick work of another large open field fire near the Kern River off Truxtun Avenue. Both city and county firefighters were called to the bike trail near Saddleback Drive yesterday afternoon. About a couple dozen fire crews were on scene. The fire grew to about 5 acres before they were able to contain it. We are still waiting for word on what may have started that blaze. Just on the other side of the grapevine, a portion of I-5 is now back open. This is video from March when a landslide caused part of the road to crumble in Castaic. Crews were on scene last night making additional repairs to the road, and that had to shut down all southbound lanes overnight. But just a few minutes ago, some of those lanes opened back up. They are set again to close those lanes overnight for the rest of the week, starting at 10 p.m. And then opening up at 5 a.m. and then again on Sunday from midnight to 9 a.m. There is, however, a detour in place if you're headed down south, but it could take you a little longer, just a heads up. With time running out, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden are set to meet with other congressional leaders at the White House today in an effort to hammer out a deal on raising the nation's debt limit by June 1st. Experts say an unprecedented debt default could trigger a financial catastrophe. NBC's Drew Petrimo reports from Washington.
Mr. President, what's your message for the Speaker?
With the fate of the fragile U.S. economy in their hands, the president and top congressional leaders meet at the White House today. The Treasury Secretary says if Congress does not lift the debt ceiling, the federal government could run out of funding as soon as June 1st. Over the weekend, President Biden sounding optimistic.
I really think there's a desire on their part as well as ours to reach agreement. I think we'll be able to do it.
But publicly, the two sides appear far apart. Republicans are demanding spending cuts in return for their votes to raise the debt ceiling. Democrats accuse the GOP of holding the economy hostage. And Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says no deal is in sight.
I don't think we're in a good place. I know we're not.
McCarthy says they need a deal by this weekend in order to get legislation through Congress without risking default.
We just had our secretary say June 1st we could run out of money. We only have so many days left.
It would be a catastrophe. No one should play with it. No one should flirt with it. No one should hold it hostage and say, unless you do this, we're going to default.
The stakes are clear. What's not is whether lawmakers can reach a deal before time runs out. On Monday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen wrote a letter to top congressional leaders, warning them that even just waiting until the last minute to increase the debt ceiling could cause serious harm to consumer and business confidence, raising interest rates for borrowers, and negatively impacting the credit rating of the U.S. Drew Petrimo, NBC News, Washington.
And this could be a sign that the pandemic is officially in the rear view. The Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine is no longer available in the United States. That's according to the CDC. All remaining doses expired last week, and the CDC directed providers dispose of any they had left over. Nearly 19 million Americans received the Johnson & Johnson shot, just a small fraction compared to those who chose Pfizer or Moderna. And now that the COVID-19 public health emergency is over in the U.S., the Moderna and Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines remain free as long as federal supplies last. Check this out. Vending machines could be a rising tool in the nation's fight against the opioid epidemic. A growing number of cities and local governments are stocking up on public machines with free Narcan and other harm reduction items. The FDA recently approved the overdose reversal drug for over-the-counter sales. Along with Narcan, some vending machines have been modified to dispense fentanyl test strips, HIV testing kits, and even contraceptives.
Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go.
In New York, writers protested outside of Radio City Music Hall as NBC Universal held an event showcasing its upcoming TV lineup for advertisers. Meanwhile, just south of us in Hollywood, the Writers Union went airborne, flying a banner urging studios to pay the writers and making a crude reference to AI. The growing impact of artificial intelligence is one of the top concerns for writers. Where are the boys? We are just hours away from closing arguments in the case against Trezell and Jacqueline West, the couple charged with killing their 2 adopted boys months before reporting them missing in December of 2020. Orrin and Orson were just 3 and 4 years old when they were reported missing. Among the prosecution's witnesses, several adults who'd not seen the boys for months prior to December. The West's oldest biological child testified as well, saying he saw his little brother's dead body. The defense disputed his story, bringing in a doctor to talk about coercive interview techniques used on children. Closing arguments are set for 9 a.m. A reminder, court reporter Jason Katowski is providing daily updates from the courtroom on our KGET Twitter account. You can find more from the trial on our website, kget.com. Turning now to one of our signature issues here at 17 News, pedestrian safety. A pedestrian was hit by a car last night in southwest Bakersfield. It happened about an hour before our 11 o'clock newscast. This is on Taft Highway near Hughes Lane. CHP says the pedestrian was taken to the hospital with major injuries. The driver stayed on scene and is cooperating with the investigation. And this comes less than 48 hours after another pedestrian was hit on the road at Bakersfield. This time, it was deadly. CHP says a 60-year-old man was walking outside a crosswalk on Olive Drive when a driver hit him. It happened early Sunday morning. Investigators say there was poor lighting in the area and the man was wearing dark clothes. By our count, this is the 26th pedestrian death in Kern County so far this year. The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.